You hatch into a world that is trying to freeze you to death. The shell cracks, cold air rushes in, and your first breath feels like swallowing knives. This is not the warm, green world your instincts were built for. This is endless white, a frozen wasteland where the temperature drops to minus 80 degrees, and everything that isn't prepared for it dies fast. You are a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and somehow, you exist here. Now technically, this makes no sense. Your species evolved in a much warmer climate, with dense vegetation and prey the size of trucks. You are not supposed to be standing on ice that stretches to the horizon, with winds that can strip heat from your body faster than you can produce it. But we're ignoring that part because watching a T-Rex freeze solid in the first 5 minutes would be a very short video. So let's say your body adapted, thick skin, better insulation, maybe even a layer of primitive feathers, not perfect, but enough to give you a chance. Here's what you need to understand. Survival here is not about being the strongest predator. It's about not dying from the environment itself, because at minus 80 degrees, the cold is not just uncomfortable, it's lethal. Exposed skin freezes in minutes, moisture in your lungs starts to crystallize, every breath is a risk. And food is rare. You pull yourself out of the broken shell, legs shaking. Trying to stand for the first time, the ground beneath you isn't soil, it's hard, frozen ice mixed with compacted snow, and it offers no forgiveness. You slip immediately, crashing sideways into a drift that feels like hitting stone. Your instincts are already confused. Nothing smells right. There are no familiar scents. No distant calls of other dinosaurs. No signs of life at all. Instead, there is wind. Constant, howling wind that cuts through everything. You take your first steps, slow and unstable, and the cold hits you properly for the first time. It seeps into your body, draining heat, making every movement harder than it should be. Your muscles feel stiff, like they don't want to respond. Back in the Cretaceous, you would have hatched into warmth, into a world that encouraged movement and growth. Here, the environment punishes it, and then the hunger starts. It comes fast. Within hours, your body demands energy, because staying warm at this temperature burns through calories at an insane rate. You need food immediately, but when you look around, there is nothing. No plants, no insects buzzing in the air, no small creatures hiding in the undergrowth, because there is no undergrowth, just ice, snow, and distant shapes that might be rocks or frozen carcasses. You spot movement eventually. Far off, something shifts against the white landscape. Small, quick, barely visible. Your instincts lock onto it instantly. That is food. That is survival. You move toward it, picking up speed as best as you can. But running on ice is not something your body was designed for. Your feet slide, your balance fails, and you nearly go down again. The creature notices you long before you get close. It darts away, vanishing into a cluster of jagged ice formations. You don't even know what it was, and that's your first lesson. Out here, everything that's alive is already very good at not being eaten. You keep moving because stopping is worse. The wind doesn't let up, and standing still means losing heat faster. Your body is working overtime just to keep your core temperature stable. Every step is energy, and energy means you need food. But food means hunting. And hunting means spending even more energy. The math is already bad. Hours pass, maybe more. Time doesn't mean much out here because nothing changes. The sky is a dull gray, the ground is white, and the temperature never improves. You stumble across something eventually. A shape half buried in snow. You approach cautiously, sniffing. It's meat, frozen solid, but some kind of animal, long dead, preserved by the cold. You don't question it, you bite down, and immediately your teeth hit something harder than bone. The flesh is like ice. You have to clamp harder, using the full force of your jaws just to break off a piece. It cracks instead of tears. You swallow it anyway. It's not satisfying. It's not even warm, but it's calories. And right now, that's all that matters. This becomes your strategy very quickly. Not hunting, not chasing, but finding what's already dead. Because in a place like this, things die all the time. The cold kills the weak, the slow, the unlucky, and the cold also preserves them. You are not the apex predator here, the environment is. But you are still growing. Days turn into weeks, and you get bigger, stronger. Your body starts to handle the cold slightly better, adapting in ways your species was never meant to. Your movements become more stable, more controlled, You learn where the wind is less brutal, where ice formations can block some of it, where you can rest without losing too much heat. You also learn that you are not alone, because one day, you find tracks. Large ones, not yours, and suddenly, this frozen world becomes a lot more dangerous. The tracks are fresh, you can tell because the edges haven't been completely erased by the wind yet. Out here, that doesn't last long, a few hours, maybe less. And everything disappears under shifting snow, but these are still clear, deep impressions in the ice, spaced far apart, heavy. Whatever made them is big, bigger than anything you've seen so far. Your instincts kick in immediately. This could be food. Or this could be something that eats you. At your current size, both are still possible. You lower your head, sniffing the ground, trying to pull any information you can from the scent. It's faint. The cold kills smell almost as effectively as it kills everything else. But there's something there. Meat, warmth, life. You follow. Each step is careful now, not because you're being stealthy, but because the terrain demands it. Ice cracks under your weight in places, sharp edges hidden beneath thin layers of snow. One wrong step, and you could injure yourself. And out here, an injury isn't just a problem, it's a death sentence. The tracks lead you toward a series of ridges, jagged formations of ice and rock that rise out of the flat landscape like frozen waves. The wind is weaker here, blocked by the terrain, and for the first time since you hatched, the cold feels slightly less aggressive. And then you see it, movement, slow, heavy, deliberate. A massive shape emerges from behind one of the ridges, and your brain takes a second to process what you're looking at because it doesn't match anything in your instincts. This isn't a dinosaur. This isn't anything your DNA has a reference for. It's covered in thick fur. Long, curved tusks extend from its face, and it's enormous. A woolly mammoth that outweighs you by a ridiculous margin. Even now, after weeks of growth, you are nothing. Compared to this thing, it's a walking mountain of muscle and insulation, perfectly designed for this environment in a way that you are not, and you are very, very hungry. Your instincts don't care about logic, they don't care about odds. They see a large herbivore, and they tell you to hunt. So you move closer. The mammoth notices you almost immediately. It turns its head, small eyes locking onto you. And there's a moment where both of you just stand there, assessing. You're trying to figure out if this is worth it. It's trying to figure out what you are. Because just like you've never seen a mammoth before, it has never seen a T-Rex. You take another step, that's when it decides. The mammoth lets out a deep, rumbling sound that vibrates through the ground, a warning more than anything else. It shifts its weight, turning fully toward you, tusks angled forward, and suddenly, you understand. This is not prey, this is a mistake. You hesitate for just a second to lawn. The mammoth charges. For something that big, it moves incredibly fast. The ground shakes with each step, snow and ice kicking up behind it as it closes the distance. Your instincts flip instantly from predator to survival. Run, you turn, pushing your legs as hard as they can go, claws scraping against the ice as you try to gain traction. You nearly slip again, barely catching yourself before you go down completely. Behind you, the sound of the mammoth doesn't fade. It gets louder, closer. You veer toward the ridges, aiming for tighter spaces where something that large might have trouble following. The terrain gets rougher, uneven ice and narrow gaps forcing you to slow down just enough to stay upright. The mammoth doesn't slow down, it crashes through obstacles instead of avoiding them. Brute force carrying it forward. Ice shatters, snow explodes into the air, and for a moment you think it might actually catch you. Then the terrain works in your favor. You slip through a narrow gap between two ice formations, barely fitting through yourself. The mammoth tries to follow, but it's too big. It slams into the sides, forced to stop, tusks scraping against the ice as it struggles to push through. You don't stop running. Not until the sound of it finally fades behind you. When you do stop, your body is shaking, not just from the cold but from the sudden burst of energy. Your chest rises and falls rapidly, each breath burning as freezing air fills your lungs that could have killed you very easily. And that's your second lesson. Out here, size doesn't automatically make you the top predator. Not yet. You spend the next few days avoiding anything large. The memory of that charge sticks with you, a reminder that not everything is worth attacking. You go back to scavenging, following the wind, searching for the scent of death instead of life. It works. You find another frozen carcass, smaller this time, easier to break into. You eat, regain some energy, and keep moving, always moving, because stopping still means freezing. As the weeks pass, you grow, faster than anything else. Out here, your body packs on mass, muscle building, bones thickening. You start to retain heat better, your size working in your favor now instead of against you. The cold is still dangerous, but it's no longer immediately overwhelming. And with that growth comes a shift. You start noticing that smaller creatures avoid you, they run earlier, disappear faster. Even some of the medium-sized ones give you space. You are becoming something they recognize as a threat, but the big ones, there's still a problem. One evening, as the light fades into that constant gray twilight, you come across a pack, shapes moving together in the distance, low to the ground, fast, coordinated wolves. They spot you at the same time you spot them, and, unlike the mammoth, they don't run. First time, you're not dealing with something bigger than you, you're dealing with something smarter. And a lot more patient.